Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 15 Beta 3. This is available to developers right now and may be out to public beta testers by the time you're watching this video. If it's not out today, then generally it will be the following day. Now this came in at a very large 1.28 gigabytes. That's pretty large for a beta update, and that's on my iPhone 12 Pro Max. I also have it on the iPhone 11 and iPhone 6s Plus. Along with this, Apple also released iPadOS 15 Beta 3 that I'm running on my M1 iPad Pro 12.9 from 2021, as well as watchOS 8 Beta 3, tvOS 15 Beta 3, and macOS Monterey Beta 3. So all of those are available now, along with a HomePodOS update if you're in that beta program. There was an update because of devices being bricked. They've since updated that again today with a new Beta 3. So all of those are available now. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build number and talk about what's new. So we'll go to Settings, then we'll go to General, then About. Now if you tap on the software version number, you'll see it says 15.0. You'll see the build number is 19A5297E. And so this particular update does have some changes, feature updates, and bug fixes as well. And the first thing they've updated is the modem update, or a modem firmware update. So if you're having issues with connectivity, maybe switching between 4G and 5G, hopefully it's improved. Only time will tell. It was okay for me so far, but they seemingly have improved it, but they haven't said what they've improved with that. Now, the first change they've made has to do with focus modes. These are super helpful to sort of go into Do Not Disturb and have other focus modes, but they've changed the menu itself. So if we go into Settings, and then we go back to Focus, under Focus, you'll see it looks pretty typical like we had before. However, on Beta 2 that I have in my left hand here, this is on an iPhone 12 Pro and has the case on to help differentiate it, you'll see that there's Focus Status and Phone Calls. They're no longer on the main menu on Beta 3. They've been moved under each individual menu. So maybe we go into Sleep, for example. You'll see that it's changed. And now we have Home Screen and Lock Screen and Focus Status as well. And then if we scroll down, it's changed a little bit more, where we can open Sleep and Health, Schedule and Options. So they've just changed this around a little bit as far as its overall order and what it looks like. Also, when you turn on focus modes, it's now color coordinated to what we have here. So Do Not Disturb is purple, for example. Sleep has this green color. And if we turn it on here, maybe we switch to Sleep, you'll see it's green and the icon is green. So, or has this sort of teal green to it, teal, blue, green. If we go to Driving, it's purple. We go to Home and Evening, it's blue. Go back to Do Not Disturb, it's purple. So it's just color coordinated now, and it matches on the icon itself. So that's a nice little update they've done. Now with iOS 15, Safari got a major update, and in Beta 3, they've fixed some of the complaints I had before. So if you go into Safari, it's nice that we have the address bar at the bottom, but it would slide all the way to the top to try and enter your address, or if you want to tap in and edit, now it locks to the top of the keyboard. It no longer slides all the way to the top. So this is a nice little change that they've added, and you'll see here, if we do that on Beta 2, it slides all the way to the top. It's sort of out of reach of where you're typing, so it makes sense to keep it down at the bottom. Along with this, they've also updated it so maybe we go to that web page, we rotate to landscape, and if we scroll down and we refresh, you'll see there's no icons here in the top. Let's refresh. Wait for it to refresh here. We'll give it just a moment. When it's done, or reload. It's still taking a while for whatever reason. Once it's reloaded, you'll see there's a refresh button at the top, or a reload button. You've got the little circle with the arrow. And so that's an option once you reload the page. If you don't reload the page, it doesn't show up yet at the top. So that's a small little change as well. Also, if we press and hold the menu at the bottom, we have a little pop-up and we have the option to reload here as well. So instead of pulling down to reload the screen, you have another option here when you haptic press, so you can reload the screen that way. And there was a little flash. So there's still some bugs in this I've noticed throughout, but they've updated Safari to make it much more useful as far as that goes. Also, if you go in and maybe you want to paste something, we'll tap and paste, you'll see there's a little icon that we can paste from text. Prior to this, it actually says the words paste from text. So if we look at the previous version, you'll see it says text from camera. Instead, we now have this icon. This could be a little bit confusing for a new user, but it makes sense if you've ever seen that in the camera app, for example. So you now have the option to text from camera, it'll switch to the camera, and then you can copy text from the camera itself. So that's an update. Also, when you're searching, they've categorized it a little bit differently in Safari. So you'll see here as I search for Apple, you'll see it shows up a little bit different, categorizes it under Google search, the main website at the top, and then on this page, so you can search on the page. Before, it looked different as well. So if you searched for Apple, for example, in beta 2, you'll see it looks a little bit different. So they just changed the way it looks overall when you're searching for something. Now within settings, there's a change as well. If we go into settings, go to general, scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see it now says transfer or reset iPhone. Before it was just reset. So if we tap on this, it says prepare for new iPhone. So we now have the option to transfer or reset. This is part of Apple allowing you to use some iCloud storage to sort of store some of your backups for a while, even if you don't have enough storage. They'll sort of loan you the storage for a couple weeks so you can transfer it to a new phone. So they've added transfer or reset iPhone. Now, if we go home and we go into the Shortcuts app, we'll go over here, go into Shortcuts. There's now an option for background sounds. So if we go into background sounds, you now have an option to set those, and it says select ocean background sounds. You can select whichever one you have or whatever one you'd like to pick, and you can have it ask each time. So there's different shortcuts pertaining to background sounds specifically. These weren't there before. Also in the Home app, if you're setting up an automation for an accessory, for example, there will now be options for adjusting when the light level changes that it can actually do something. Now, I don't have any lights that are attached to it that would work this way, but that's some of the options in the settings. And thanks to my friend Steve Mosier for helping point some of these out, and also to Braden for helping me out with some of these as well. Now, another thing is there's some new splash screens. So the first time you go into different apps, there's different splash screens. So if we go into the App Store, for example, there's a new splash screen that says what's new on the App Store. In-app events, App Store widget, and Safari extensions on iOS. So that's new here as well. So that's just a small splash screen that we have. There's also another one for some people when you go into reminders. So if we go into reminders, you'll see it's what's new in reminders, organized with tags, optimized with smart lists, and lots more, it says. Also, if you go into the Health app, there's a splash screen or one that pops up as well. See if we can go into Health here. There we go. We'll go into Health, and it says Improve Health and Activity. This popped up on every single device, and it says Share My Data with Apple. So you have the option to share data or opt out of that. So that's something new as well. Now, within the Health app, if you go under Browse and then go down to About Blood Glucose, it looks a little bit different than it does in Beta 2. So if we go into the Health app in Beta 2, you'll see that the wording has changed between Beta 2 on the left and Beta 3 on the right. There's a much better explanation of blood glucose overall, what it is and how it affects people with diabetes, or what they need to look for and how to track it. So it gives more information about that in general. So it's a small change there. Something else they've changed that's quite nice is the music widget. So if we go to music, so I'll just switch through here, and you'll see we have the music widget. And so far it doesn't look too different, and that's because I haven't played any music. But if I go into the music app, let me turn the volume down here, we'll play music. And if we go home, you'll see that the background of the music widget actually changes to the color of the overall album. So maybe if we go into something else, maybe we'll just pick, well, let's go down a little bit further. We'll pick this one here and tap on this song. If we go home, you'll see the background changed on the widget. So it can change based on whatever song you're actually playing. So we'll go to this one, and it will change to that color. It just depends on whatever you're playing. It will match whatever the background color is. Now, if we go into our notifications and we swipe to the left, you'll see there's two options now. One says Options and one says Clear. So now we have two different buttons for our different notifications on each notification. So you can just show that by swiping over to the left a little bit, and we can clear, hit Options, or just swipe all the way and it goes away. So that's been updated. There's also a change in Find My. So if we go into Find My, within Find My, you'll see there's my devices, and there's a new plus button here. If we tap on the plus button, we have the option to share my location. So you'll see there's share location, add AirTag, and add another item, but now we have share my location as well. So that's been added to Find My. Now, as far as known issues and resolved issues, in this update, there's over 50 resolved issues. Some of them have to do with live text now working properly. Auto reply should work as expected. And also you can now update your device using software update if you have less than 500 megabytes of storage. So you can do all of those things and much, much more. However, one thing they didn't mention is that the Wi-Fi bug that I mentioned in iOS 14.7 is now fixed. So they fixed an issue where if you have an odd network name, so if you go into your Wi-Fi settings and you have an odd network name where you have % signs in the Wi-Fi network or the SSID, We'll wait for it to load. You can actually connect to it now. So I changed the password. It should prompt me for a password here in just a moment. We'll wait for it. It says incorrect password. Let's go ahead and put it in. And it's just zollotech 123, just so we could try this out. We'll wait for it to join. It'll take just a moment. And once it joins, there we go. We should be able to go to our network and then go to different web pages and go into whatever we'd like. So it seems like it's working fine. They've fixed this bug in beta 3. On beta 2, it will actually lock up your network settings and you'll have to reset your network settings in order to get it back. So I had that issue before. I had to reset my network settings just when I was testing it out. It didn't work properly before. So that's been resolved. However, there are still 40 known issues that remain. Now, that doesn't mean they haven't stopped working on them or don't have more to fix, but they've listed over 40 issues that they're still working on. So keep in mind there's still problems, and Apple generally updates those in the feedback app. So if you go into feedback and go into your inbox, once they refresh this, they'll show up here with beta 3 release notes, and then you can see all of the known issues. So if you do have an issue, you can check and see if it's there first and they already know about it. If not, go ahead and report it in feedback, and then they prioritize it and work on it from there. Now, as far as green tint, they didn't mention anything to do with that, so maybe that's fixed, maybe it's not. I've personally never experienced it, but I know quite a few of you that have, and so let me know if you're still experiencing green tint. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below with that, as well as raised black levels when viewing HDR content. That should have been fixed, but it may still be a problem for some people. Now, as far as iPadOS 15 Beta 3, I have not found anything other than what I've already mentioned. Universal control does not seem to be turned on yet. That's where you can use macOS Monterey to use the mouse to control both your iPad and Mac from the same mouse or keyboard. So that doesn't seem to be working just yet. So I'm not sure if it's going to be turned on in beta 4. Hopefully it's turned on very soon, as that's something I really want to try out. But so far I was not able to get that to work. However, it seems to be performing well. The overall performance on the iPad is pretty steady. Battery life suffers a little bit on the iPad. I've been getting about 5 or 6 hours of screen on time on the iPad specifically. So if we go into the overall battery life, the last 10 days, you'll see I charged it to 51% a couple hours ago, and usually I charge it about every couple days after about 5 or 6 hours of screen on time. Now, battery overall will take a few days to know what it's like, so let's take a look at iOS 15 Beta 2 and see how it's been for me. You'll see my battery health is at 97%, and that's pretty typical given its age at this point. Let's go back over to the battery life, and you'll see over the last few days, yesterday I had 3 hours and 37 minutes of screen on time, 4 hours and 19 minutes of screen off time, and used about 80% of my battery. So far, battery life has been about 6 to 7 hours for me on my phone. I still go to bed with around 50% left, so I'm not sure if it's 100% accurate, but it does not seem to get the 10 to 12 hours I was getting on stable public versions. And that's just part of running a beta overall. However, so far today, I have 3 hours and 14 minutes, and it's using less power. So we're down to about 40 or 35% of the battery used, and then 2 hours and 59 minutes of screen off time. So in general, it's okay. It's an early beta. I do expect it to improve as we get closer to the final release, though. The overall performance on all of these devices, well, if we take a look at the iPhone 6s Plus, it seems to be performing pretty well. Basically, it doesn't seem any worse than, say, iOS 14.7 on this device or 14.6. The overall smoothness is what you would expect at this point, and I don't see it slowing down the device so far at all. So you'll see scrolling is nice and fast, going into music, the same thing. Sometimes there are stutters though, so we'll wait for this to load here just a moment, and you'll see it's pretty smooth, but it's a little bit stuttery. So it's not perfect, but it's doing okay so far. So basically what we had with Beta 2. It's not incredible, but it's doing okay. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the benchmarks. Now, as far as the overall benchmark scores, you'll see it scored 1,589 for single core, 4,072 for multi-core. Now it varies. I ran it a couple different times, and one time the single core was lower and then it was higher on the multi-core. You can see 4,105. So it's about the same as Beta 2 as far as the multi-core, but it is a little bit lower for single core. However, it's pretty early on. It's probably still processing in the background, and I would expect it to improve over the next day or so as it continues finishing what it needs to do in the background. Now let's take a look at all of these devices. So let's move over the iPhone 11 and then the iPhone 6s Plus, and then the iPad Pro. So as you can see, from left to right, We have the iPad Pro 12.9 from 2021, the M1 version, the iPhone 6s Plus, the iPhone 11, and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So again, this will give you a general idea of what to expect performance-wise on all of your devices. Now, as far as when to expect iOS 15 Beta 4, usually at this time in the beta cycle, we're on a 2-week cycle. So I would expect the next beta or Beta 4 to be on the 28th of July or sometime around there. Normally, once we get into August, we'll start seeing week-to-week betas, where we'll get to maybe Beta 5, 6, 7, and then a release candidate with a release to the public sometime in mid to late September, usually around the iPhone 13 launch or whatever the next iPhone is. So that's usually what Apple does, and so that makes sense. We shouldn't see it for a couple of weeks. Now, as far as iOS 14.7, we could see that release as soon as later this week, tomorrow, Friday, or I would expect maybe Monday. That seems to make the most sense to me, but again, Apple can change this up as they've been doing quite a lot lately. But if they release it, I'll be sure to let you know. And that leads me to, should you install iOS 15 Beta 3? And I would say if you're on Beta 2, then absolutely. However, if you're trying to solve some issue or you have bugs and you want to see if a beta sort of solves that or resolves it for you, I would skip it and wait for a public release. If you know what you're getting into as far as maybe having issues, occasionally having bugs and reporting them into feedback, and then if you really need to, rolling back to 14.6 using a computer, if you're familiar with that, then absolutely try it out. However, if you're not, I would hold off, as you will need a computer if you want to go back to the previous version. So just keep that in mind. Now, as far as 14.7, you could try that out. It's probably going to be released fairly soon. However, at this point, I would just wait for the final release, as that should be pretty soon as well. And so that's it for iOS 15 Beta 3. Hopefully I find some more features in it, and if I do, I'll be sure to let you know in a follow-up video, or if there's enough features in a separate video altogether. If you've found anything else significant, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.